All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Strange Oddities Podcast. I'm your host, Matthew J. Haas. Welcome to another episode. I have another exciting guest for everybody tonight. Before I welcome my guest, I have a really cool background. I thought the perfect setting for my guest because of what he does in his background. So I thought having clouds behind me, a beautiful sky, blue sky with white clouds would be a perfect thing for tonight's guest. And I feel like I'm floating around. I feel like I'm flying. I'm excited. So I'm back again tonight live, guys. Let's get all the boring stuff out of the way, get all the logistics stuff done. Guys, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. Go to my YouTube channel, hit that little bell on the main page. You'll be subscribed to the show. We have almost 200 subscribers. We just got a new subscriber today. I want to thank them for subscribing. You can follow us on Facebook. All guest news and information about the show is on our Facebook page. Follow Strange Oddities Podcast on Facebook. We are simulcasting both live on Facebook and on YouTube at the same time. And we also have archived episodes on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, places like that where you can get your podcast. So, without further ado, guys, I'm going to go ahead and read a little background information on our guest. We're going to get into dream techniques with this gentleman. He comes from all the way from Hawaii. That's right, you heard me. He's broadcasting from Hawaii, which I think is really cool in itself. So I'm happy that I'm honored that he was able to do our podcast all the way from Hawaii. Hawaii's on our bucket list. My wife and I want to go swim with the dolphins. It's a beautiful state. It's a beautiful, they have beautiful islands there. The culture there is wonderful. I've never been. If you've been, you got to go see it. It's just amazing. So, we have Dr. Serge Kahili King. He's got a PhD, has published the world's largest selection of books and tapes on Huna and the Polynesian philosophy and practice of effective living, and on the spirit of aloha and the attitude of love, peace, of which the Hawaiian Islands are so famous for. He also writes extensively on Hawaiian culture and is a novelist as well. Critics describe his style as practical, down to earth, and easy to grasp. He maintains this clarity in his books and his audio tapes and videos and his articles. You can find many of his works at the Huna store. That's HUNA, the Huna store. And you may read about some of his articles, the Library Hut of the Hawaiian Huna Village, sponsored by the Aloha International, which is pretty cool. He's a speaker. He's got an academic background, years of training in African and Hawaiian shamanism, and his experience in community development and his cross-culture research and source material. Dr. King has developed lectures, workshops, and courses to provide people around the world with means to improve their lives, in addition to speaking and teaching in many countries. He's a storyteller. Dr. King is the author and designer of Search for Pele, which is pretty cool. I guess the soccer player that we all know, and a ed- edutainment CD-ROM game based on the legends, language, and geography of the Big Island of Hawaii, no longer in production, but he is also the author of 4 novels and is well known for his fascinating presentations of traditional Hawaiian legends. I also want to get into, he's also a shaman, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of, so-called shamans in the paranormal community and the paranormal field. A lot of people do some training with shamans. And when Dr. Serge Kahili King was 14, he was initiated into the path of Hawaiian shamanism by his father. At 18, he was adopted as the grandson of Joseph Kahili and Kauai. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but hopefully I did. Kupa, or shaman of the Hawaiian tradition. And in addition to his years of training with the Kahili family, Dr. King spent 7 years in West Africa being trained in African shamanic traditions, and has made in-depth studies of such traditions around the world today. It teaches people on how to be a shaman and healing techniques and his own knowledge to help others and discover their own creative power. This is pretty cool. Very impressive background. I want to go ahead and get him in. I'll share that with everybody later on when they can read more about Dr. King. Here we go. Dr. King, sorry for the wait. I was reading your bio to our listeners. I am very honored that you, accepted my invitation to be a guest tonight. Welcome to Strange Oddities Podcast.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah. So what in your background, like, how did, like, it says you started at a very young age. You were like around 8 years old when you really started to do all these kind of studies into your culture and about shamanism, and you were introduced at a very young age. What really piqued your interest at such a young age to start this all up?
Well, I was just fascinated with the whole idea of, well, I guess starting off with telepathy. My father started working with me, and the idea of the powers of the mind. That interested me very much, and I was also at the same time very interested in science, but in the sense of exploring the unknown.
Right. Did you go to any specific universities to take further study of scientific academic towards what you do?
Well, there was in my university studies, there were aspects of that. For instance, I majored in Chinese studies. And of course, that included understanding and getting used to things like Taoism, and as well as the Confucianism and the some of the cultural practices, as well as the economy and government kind of things that were there too. But yeah, I found that absolutely fascinating.
Awesome. As far as shamanism and the practices of shamanism, there's a lot of, I think, misconception about what shamanism or being a shaman is as far as the paranormal community goes. We were kind of talking about that a little bit before we started the live stream tonight. We were just talking privately. How I think, in my opinion, I feel there's definitely a misconception about it. What, in your view, in your culture, and how you came across shamanism, what is shamanism to you in your culture and to you?
Well, the first thing, very important thing, is to understand that the word shaman comes from Siberia. And it was first found by Siberian anthropologists studying the different cultures there. And among the Tungus people, they had a person who could not be identified as a witch doctor, could not be identified as anything that they had encountered before. And the people, the name for him, or what he did, actually, not him personally, but for what he did, was called shaman, which meant the one who is wise. And that meant wise in the ways of nature and wise in the ways of a lot of things. And so that's where the word really comes from. So when we're using it in other parts of the world, we're talking about people in different cultures who do similar things. Now, some of the things that set the shaman apart from psychics and other kinds of healers and things, a few of the things are the basic idea that everything is alive, aware, and responsive. Now, when you carry that through, it means you can communicate with everything.
Right.
It's easy to make fun of, yeah, that guy talks to rocks. But you're amazed what rocks can tell you.
Yeah. And those rocks can hold a lot of energy.
The other thing is that the shamans go into different worlds in their perception of things. They go on journeys, and the journeys can be to find power, to help people, to learn things, to help heal things. A lot of different reasons that different shamans do this. Bring back knowledge to share with other people, that's common as well. And that's unique in terms of particular types of people in the world. So those are two of the outstanding things that make a difference. Now, the individual cultures have difference in details of how they will explain something, where they go and how they go.
Right.
As a small example, a lot of people still think that shamans use drums to go into trance.
Right.
Well, shamans all around the world, and very, very few of them use drums for that purpose.
Right.
The Mongols, for instance, I stayed with them for a while. For them, the drum is to energize the hoofbeats of the horse they ride in the other world. That's why they do the drumming.
Wow.
They want to go into trance, bam, they go into trance.
Mm-hmm.
That's all typical in Hawaiian as well.
Right. Now, from my understanding, like I'm not an expert in shamanism, and I'm far from being knowledgeable about shamanism. I'm more of a paranormal investigator, so that I try to apply logical things and whatnot. But when it comes to shamanism, my impression is that it's mostly for healing purposes, if I have that accurate.
Yeah,
is that a general census of what it's designed
yeah,
for? Or
understand it's healing body, mind, and circumstance,
okay,
not just strictly physical healing.
okay. It also can be used for spiritual healing, right?
Well, it depends on how you define that. Yes.
Right. Okay. Because like I said, like I think the misconception in the field is like people kind of use it to like heal. They think they can use it to heal the spirit that may need They think that may need crossing over, or helping spirits that are in need of help if they think they're in need of help, or along
That's a good,
those lines. Right.
why not? That's a good thing to do.
Yeah. So
It's, that is not restricted to shamans.
right. So which is pretty cool. But now, as far as shamanism goes, is shamanism like one thing all across the world and abroad, or are there many different types of forms of shamanism
Okay.
that people practice all over?
There are many different forms. It
Okay.
all depends on culture,
Right.
different ways of doing things. The things that link them together are the way they do things.
Okay.
This idea, like I said, of assuming everything is alive and aware and responsive allows them to do all kinds of things. Part of shamanism is shape shifting, which is a very interesting topic to get into. Very rarely is it ever changing your physical state, but it's changing your awareness and the awareness of others of your state.
Mm-hmm.
But that, it's not just shamans who will do that, but that's one of the things. But the main thing is the first thing I mentioned about everything being alive, and the second thing are the journeys. And the third thing would be that, yes, that's their purpose. Their purpose is to heal.
Okay, great. Um, what what can people do if they want to learn to kind of like practice being a shaman, or if
Oh,
they want to study it? What are some things that you recommend people do?
well, it's very easy, a lot easier today than it used to be because of what's available.
Right.
There are lots and lots of books on the experiences of people as a shaman and experience of others who have learned how to do it. Lots and lots of books. There are lots and lots of videos today that certain shamans are doing. I've done some. I have a lot on YouTube that are open to the public, but they cover a lot of different things from a shamanic perspective. But there's a lot of that. Other shamans too are putting up things like that. The opportunities for learning about it are immense today.
Wow, cool. My wife is in the chat, and actually she has a question for you. The cleansing thing. Remember where we were at the inn at Ridge? Oh, the inn at the Ridge, and we met a shaman, and that's right. Yeah, we came across a shaman upstate New York. They all ate and drank something, and were throwing up and cleansing themselves, and she doesn't remember what they took. It didn't have something to do with a frog. um, is there some kind of like chemical stuff that they use?
No, not can't apply that to shaman.
Okay.
There may be some shamans in different places who do that.
Okay.
Who use that as a way of getting into a different state. That's
Right.
possible.
Yeah.
But just the taking of things like that, the taking of drugs, the way it was described sounds like ayahuasca, uh, is not limited to shamans.
Okay.
Shaman might decide to do that for a particular purpose, but that's not shamanism per se.
Right. Right. I just real quick for our listeners. I know there's a technical issue with the chat that's going on with the cross comments from YouTube and Facebook for some reason. Guys, if you have my Facebook and want to message me privately your question, I'll try to relay it through that way. If you have my number, text me, or if you want to throw me a private message on Messenger, you got a specific question, I'll try to get it out there. But for some reason, my platform is just it wants to have a little glitch. So it happens, podcasts and stuff. But the main thing is that our audio and video sounds great, and our guest is comfortable, and I'm having a good time learning about shamanism because I've always wanted to learn about it. It's one part of the field that I really should get more knowledge about, because I do know a lot of stuff, but I lack in that part of the paranormal realm. So you've written quite several books about shamanism, if I'm not mistaken. I have them up here, a list of them on Amazon, and everybody can get your books on Amazon, and also get more information about what you've written about on your website. There's a website that has all your background information and what you've written about. What particular books would you recommend our listeners to read to learn about some of the teachings that you've come across for shamanism?
Well, the first one I would recommend, because it has so many techniques that anybody can learn and use, and very good, is Urban Shaman.
Hmm.
And so that's the first one I'd recommend. A lot of good information in there about how to go about doing shamanic things for healing purposes. Yes.
Right.
And how to go into different states, and just a lot is in that book. If you want to get some deeper, there's a book called Changing Reality, which focuses on just that, because reality is flexible, and the book gives a whole series using different points of view to make changes in the world and in your life,
Right.
in shamanic ways.
Sure. Is there a particular thing that an individual must do before they decide to go down that path? If they want to practice those studies, like, is there anything that you recommend them that they do beforehand? Like any suggestions or advice of how one would, if they wanted to, take a serious study of it, and before they get into it heavily, what would you tell people?
Well, first of all, it'll partly depend on the teacher, because different teachers may have different rules and regulations. But basically, you just got to be really wanting to learn about the world in a different way, and learn how to help people in a different way, and not just people.
Yeah,
Right?
the world itself, nature, yeah, everything. Yeah, absolutely. How was it in Africa? What was it like there?
Well, that was very exciting. I was there for 7 years, doing community development in a number of different countries, and I had encountered uh, a shaman, would be the term that you'd have to use for him, and trained me in many different techniques that I came back and shared when I returned. Just amazing things, that we had some amazing experiences that whole time. That was really, really good. It was about, let's see, I was there 7 years, but probably working with him more like 6 or 6.5.
Hmm. Would you say, in your experience in traveling and learning, studying all, with the places that you've gone to learn these things, in your younger years, would you say that other places are far more advanced spiritually than we are over here, or
No,
no? Okay.
no. I mean, advanced spiritually is a pretty loose set of words,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Because it can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
Now, if by spiritual you mean good, good-hearted, yeah, no, there's no difference.
Mm-hmm.
They are around the world.
Right.
If
Right.
if he's a real shaman, then of course he's able to move into other worlds in the ways that he or she has been taught and to do things in a helpful way. Not all shamans are uh, really nice guys or girls.
Yeah.
Uh, some of them have a warrior type attitude
Okay.
and look in terms of deal with evil spirits and even people who are have shamanic skills but who are also evil. So they do a lot of helping in those areas,
Right.
protecting people
Right.
and diminishing the power of such other people.
Yeah. Well, I would think like for the most part the people that I've run into that have learned about shamanism and practiced it, for the most part, are positive, good energy people. I've luckily ran into very few or none people that use it for bad practices. But have you come across anybody that's you know
I've come across no shamans who have used it for bad purposes.
okay?
People using um, different states of consciousness to try and manipulate other people. Sure, I've dealt with that quite a bit,
Yeah,
but certainly would not call them shamans.
right, right. So, I want to tell our listeners who are just tuning in, we have Dr. Serge Kahili King with us tonight. He's our guest from Hawaii. I'm excited that I have just a guest from Hawaii. His background is really fascinating. Guys, if you want to read his bio, I don't know, Dr. King, if this is your correct website, but this is where I found your bio. It's surgeking.com /sk bio, and your bios there and everything. And then on Amazon, guys, if you're interested in reading his book, he's got books about dreaming techniques, how to master the art of dreaming. He's got books about his culture. He's got a book, The Foundation of Huna. Um, we have Urban Shaman. We have another book, Happy Me, Happy You, The Huna Way to Healthy Relationships. I'm always for healthy relationships, that's for sure. um, one of these books that really fascinates me, that actually I plan on buying myself, Dreaming Techniques, Working with Night Dreams, Daydreams, and Liminal Dreams. What got you into writing about dreams?
Oh boy, I love that doing that book. That was
Yeah,
wonderful. Yes. I was inspired by reading about in the 70s, reading about a Frenchman in the 1800s who had recorded 1,000 of his own dreams
wow,
and then used them as the basis for study and analysis and experiments. And that really, you know, excited me. So I began then, because I'd been interested, but that really turned something on to know more and more about them. So I began recording my own dreams. Recorded well over 5,000 of my own dreams
wow,
and analyzed them and put them into this book in ways that talk about dreaming way beyond just night dreams. Because as it said, like you described, night dreams, daydreams, liminal dreams means the things that you can see and do or that happen in our waking life world that are dreamlike.
wow, cool.
So I cover that kind of thing too.
Yeah. Is there anything about lucid dreaming? Because lucid dreaming,
I
fact, yeah,
have techniques for, first of all, about what it is, and then techniques for practicing it.
nice. If I may, I have a little anecdote or experience to share with you, real quick. So I want this interview to be all about Dr. King, obviously. So, but my wife and I one night we were getting ready for bed, and I was kind of like asleep but not fully asleep. It's like that in between state of dreaming but not quite in your full, deep of sleep. And I looked up at the ceiling by my curtains in my bedroom, and when I looked up, to me, my bedroom light was still on, and I could see this gigantic beetle hanging out on my window, like the top of the window where the curtain rod goes, and he's just hanging out there, and it freaked me out because I felt like this thing was so realistic, and I was so scared because of how big this thing was. And I knew if my wife would have seen it, because she hates bugs and anything like that. And I said, I gotta find it and kill it or get rid of it somehow so she don't see it and freak out. And I was like, how am I gonna find this thing? How am I gonna get rid of it? Because this thing was huge. It was those like Asian beetle type bugs that are huge with the big antennas. And I was just like, when I got out of bed, the lights were off. And I'm like, wait a minute, the lights were on when I seen it. And my wife was asking me, what are you doing? And I'm like, all right, I gotta tell you, I saw this gigantic bug, and I'm like trying to find it because I lost it. I don't want you to freak out when you see it because it was nasty looking. And I'm like, so when I explained this experience to a couple of psychic medium friends of mine, they explained it to me as that is what they explained what a lucid dream can be like. And they feel that I was experiencing something lucid because it was that in between state that felt really real, but yet it wasn't because I wasn't quite asleep yet.
Wasn't real in this waking state.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right,
But it was real in as far as the actual experience went.
right.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, these kinds of things happen a lot. We have, when you're in that in between state, you can have visual experiences, you can have audio, you can have kinesthetic things, lots of different stuff that can happen that is very real while you're doing it. And yet, when you get fully awake, I have this kind of states of consciousness that I use A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
The fully awake with eyes open is A, and that has different stages because it's not the same thing if you and I are talking with each other right now and looking at each other.
Right,
But so if I'm reading a book, I'm less aware of my environment, but I'm still got my eyes open. And if sometimes another state of A is when you see things like you saw in waking life. Some people do that.
yeah.
And so we have all these states, and the B's, for my system, the B states are the ones where you're doing all these things with your eyes closed. And so, boy, there you can really get some tremendous adventures.
Yeah, sure. I know.
Is
I know. I had one.
So what I call the C state is the full state. Now you can be lucid in the B state,
Okay.
which means that several different things. It can mean that how can I put this? You know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
One degree of lucidity. Another one is that you know that what you're experiencing isn't real. Another degree is that you are able to make conscious choices to change things. And then the fourth one is, I guess you might call it full lucidity, where you know it's not real and you can go out of your way to do things like even remember something from a previous dream about how you fly and apply that and start flying.
Right, right. Do you think when it comes to that, I'm glad you brought that up actually because I always thought a great question I had in my head was when it comes to flying. I've had several dreams where, and I'm sure other people have dreamt them flying, and then there's also the discussion in the field about it could be a possible way that we're astral projecting in our dreams. And what do you think of those ideas of that?
Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
You can project out into this reality, or you can astral project into other realities.
Nice.
It's just a term for you're experiencing maybe yourself or maybe you're experiencing yourself as someone or something else, but it's in some place, it's in another place.
Sure, sure. Wow, this is awesome. I'm just so fascinated with dreams because there's so many theories and ideas that people talk about all over the world. Even scientists, they're trying to, study more of what the brain is capable of doing while you're dreaming. What are when you talked about when you record your dreams? What, if you don't mind sharing with our listeners, is there a particular method that you use for recording your dreams, or?
Yes, it's quite a long time, which is really simple. The most basic and the most useful method, but it takes practice, is simply the journal method.
Okay.
You have some paper next to your bed. Every time you have a dream, you get up and you write it down. So I discovered some fascinating things in doing that. First of all, I might have anywhere from 5 to 8 dreams during the night.
Hmm.
One very interesting, all very different from each other. And so I went on with that for years. That's what mainly filled up my dream books.
Right.
And but then one thing I discovered that was interesting was I might have a nightmare and go back to sleep, without that, and then have another dream or 2 or 3 more that had nothing to do with the nightmare.
Mm.
Like that was one single experience, but it was not my whole night.
Yeah.
And so it gets so fascinating. Now,
Yeah.
there are other ways. I talk in my book about you don't have to do the journal. There are other things that you can do, and I describe that. I also talk, what you mentioned, about the different ideas about dreaming around the world, including scientific ideas as well as cultural ideas in different places, because I think that's a good background to have.
Sure. Now, scientists say that a portion of our dreaming is like our subconscious, from previous feelings or thoughts of what we were thinking before,
Sure.
prior to that sleep state. How much of that how much of a percentage versus all the other ideas that are out there about dreams? What do you think the percentages are?
The kinds of scientists who say that are really not interested in dreams because they can't deal. And they really try to put them down quite a bit. Okay. Oh, it's just the fact that one of the neuroscientists' favorite sayings is that it's just noise in the neurons.
Right.
Okay. And you actually start getting into your dreams and start being more aware of them and paying more attention to them, you realize, no, wait, that can't be. My brain is a great processor, but it can't invent anything that it hasn't experienced. So
True.
something is going on.
Yeah.
And that's very clear.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah. Go ahead.
no, you please.
Oh no, I was just gonna bring up another theory, which I'm sure you've come across with your research when it comes to dreams. Is there's another theory that we're possibly also tapping into other multiverses or other possible dimensions while we're dreaming, and I kind of lean towards that a little bit because some of the dreams, like I'll tell my wife like some of the like such detailed information that I dream about, and I would relay it to my wife, and she's like, I could write a movie or a book myself, like just on the things I dream because of
Yeah,
all the the information I collect from it. So it's like it makes me think: Are we really tapping into that?
sure we are. It's like fiction writers,
Hmm.
especially the ones who write in detail, like you're talking about, of a different time or a different planet, different world, where did all that detail come from?
Right.
And it doesn't come from your own personal experience out here. So now these are just explanations, okay?
Hmm.
There's still no proof that you can say, but it makes more sense to think of it as something that they have experienced in a different stage,
Yeah.
and they bring it back when they
Right.
wake,
I,
if
yeah.
they have it or if it's strongly enough.
Right, right. I think it would be really cool. I don't know about you, but if they could like visually record our dreams like
Yeah,
somehow and then like, convert it to like video,
I,
like, and
I
then
know.
like that would be like sci-fi, you know?
Sure. It's a wonderful sci-fi idea,
Yeah.
but start looking at it actually physically. I cover some introduction to science in the terms of our senses and how their
Mm,
senses work. And the way the senses actually work, there's no time anybody's going to be recording a dream because it's all coming in as electromagnetic impulses along the neurons to the brain where it's processed into something that you can perceive. There's the magic part. It doesn't come into your brain as a picture.
right.
Okay, people still have that idea. It's not the way it works.
Yeah.
So you might know. Let's see. How can you? Well, you know, the closest thing to it is movies.
Right. Like the Matrix.
These people inventing all of these really strange experiences and then putting them together with the technology they have so that it comes out and you can see Star Wars or things like that.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, like you said, these ideas that these producers and movie makers and Hollywood that they come up with these things somehow. And I guarantee you, 90% of it comes from their dreams.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah. Lots
ab-
of movies
yeah,
and not come from dreams.
yeah, exactly. Because some of these movies, you're just like, where would you think of something like that? Like after watching it, you'd be like, wow, you know. But So we're with Dr. Serge Kahili King. He's an author. He's got a book about dreaming techniques. He's a shaman. If you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat. Try to get them to him as best I can. I know we're having a little trouble with the chat there, but if you want to message me privately, if you got my info to contact me, I'll relay the question to him as best I can. Um, what's your projects in the future? Anything in the works, or you're
Well,
writing anything new?
so right now I'm finishing my second book on Hawaiian culture,
Okay,
and that's almost ready.
right.
And so it contains a lot more articles and legends than the first one did.
Okay,
And, I'm continuing to write articles, and we have staff and other people who write articles too. I'll mention the website huna.org, www.huna.org, where you'll find links to over 300 articles,
wow.
cover a wide range of things of healing and also shamanic experiences as well that are just available to anyone. And
Yeah.
then I had posted well over 200 videos and video clips on my different teachings. Okay, so all
Wow,
these are available to people on YouTube.
that's great. How was your culture or where you lived? How did they kind of welcome? Did they welcome you with open arms with what you studied and what you practiced and brought back with you in your years of research with dreams and shamanism and stuff? Did they welcome you with open arms, or were they a little? I
Well,
In your bio, they were a little critical, I think, but
people are people.
right.
So there were those who welcomed me with open arms, and Hawaiians I've trained have told me that what I was teaching them is what their grandmother taught them.
Oh wow.
So it's just for some of them it just fits right in, but then also it's a very mixed kind of a population with different backgrounds. It's a started off as a family unit society.
Hmm.
Okay, so no single way of thinking, and so some people like it, some people don't.
Right. Right. What do they spiritually practice in Hawaii? Is there any specific thing that they worship, or is it like all different cultures in one, or
Well, in Hawaiian culture, if we look at the healing, there are all kinds of different ways of healing, okay, which include healing through the body, healing through herbs, healing through dreams, okay, and they'll have the person have a dream, and they'll work with it, or they'll go in some more shamanic way, have a dream and come back and help the person based on that knowledge. So there's a wide variety of things. And then the psychic or paranormal aspect of Hawaii is very profound.
Mm.
Uh, well worth studying for anybody that cares about that, because a lot of things happen here.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you had of course, Pearl Harbor, and you had a lot of volcanic activity over there. A lot of just so much history over there. When was Hawaii like really established with people? How far back?
What was this again?
How far back did Hawaii actually get established as far as history goes? How far
Oh,
back?
nobody knows that.
Oh, nice.
There are no Hawaiian legends at all of having come from anywhere outside of what we might call the Polynesian Triangle. Okay? Nothing. There are a lot of Western scientists who try to prove that they came from the East or they came from the West, but there's no evidence, and there's nothing in Hawaiian tradition that says that. Okay?
Right.
Where they were. Now, there are some legends about people who came from the Pleiades and did some teaching and healing, and different people like that. But as far as the Hawaiians themselves, most of it seems they believe they were always here.
Yeah.
One of the curious things to note is that the Pacific is a real big place.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have all the way over from Tonga, which is way out west, and Hawaii, which is not the farthest. No, you've got the Marquesas, and you've got Easter Island, which are far to the east,
Right.
and they all have basically the same language.
Mm.
Whereas many places around the world, like in Europe, for instance,
Right.
you can have people on the other side of a mountain have a totally different language.
Mm.
But the Hawaiians have this connection, not Hawaiians, Polynesians, I should say. The Polynesians have this connection, and they've been separated sometimes for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Wow. I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be one of my questions, which is I know you've dabbled a little bit into some of the tales and legends or legacies of Hawaii and their culture. What have been some of the things that fascinate you about the legacies or legends?
The legacy?
Yeah, the
Well,
legacies or legends that you've been following.
fortunately, a lot of Hawaiians have written about their own legends, and a lot of Westerners have gone deeply enough and gotten close enough with them to be able to relate a lot of the legends that they were told.
Mm-hmm.
Writing my book, I have a big section at the back of resources that I used for obtaining these legends. And that what I've done is use a very ancient Hawaiian style of storytelling, where you use, although I keep them very short, you also use the story to share parts of the culture. So, for instance, in the old days, there's a particular name for the storyteller, and he might tell a story all night long. But partly, if you're telling a story about going up into the forest to cut down a tree, to pull it down, to bring it as a canoe, it's not just that. It's about the birds that were there and the communications with the birds, and it's about how to cut the tree and how to get it down and how to make a canoe. This would all be part of the story. It was means of maintaining the culture with the people who, for the most part, did not have a written language. Now, it seems they did at some point, but it also seems to have been lost.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, it's understandable. When with some of the books that you've accomplished, what has been your most favorable research that you've written about? Is there anything in particular that stands out the most of what's your favorite to look back on what you've accomplished?
I can tell you the most popular one. Most popular one is Urban Shaman.
Mm-hmm.
very close to 100,000 copies.
Wow. Very cool.
So that's been the most liked.
Right. Right. Yeah, they again, guys, you can get his books on Amazon. Um they have Urban Shaman here. They've got Instant Healing, Mastering the Way of Hawaiian Shaman using words, images, touch, and energy. That sounds pretty fascinating. Uh, what is that book about, and what can people learn about it with this one?
Instant healing?
Yeah, Instant Healing.
Healing is just that. It's about healing most problems with most people in an hour or less.
Oh wow.
And it goes into, of course, it's full of techniques, but it also goes into the what I think of as the nature of the healing process.
Yeah.
So that's what makes this possible. Some of these techniques, when you first read them, they sound absurd to some people, but if you practice them, I get lots of feedback that says they work.
Wow.
They do.
That's cool. I don't know how you feel about Reiki. Reiki, I think, is the reason I bring that up. There's kind of a similarity to Reiki and shamanism. Would you agree?
Well, no,
No.
not at all.
Okay.
It's a nice healing technique.
Okay.
Been some modifications, I think, in recent years as people have incorporated other things. But the basic really Reiki healing is just having your intent on helping someone and letting your body emanate the energy that will help that happen.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that's not necessarily shamanic at all.
Right.
I'll
Okay.
see that a shaman might use it as one of his techniques.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was. That's where I got that from, because I thought maybe they would incorporate something into their practice, like doing something like that.
Shamans are willing to incorporate anything that works.
Okay. Yeah, whatever works is good.
Thing now.
Hmm.
If you're going to be healed by a shaman, it could include counseling, it could include herbal work, it could include going to get a prescription from a doctor, because that's not allowed on a personal level unless you are one. They'll use a whole range of things that can help a person get well.
Yeah.
You try to do only psychic things or only paranormal things or only stuff that's outside the medical realm. The medical realm has some good stuff that works.
Yeah. Sure.
Use whatever works.
Yeah. Natural stuff too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Would you I mean, I would recommend natural over anything, but that's what I've been believe it or not, like a lot of the products I buy lately, um like body wash or uh some type of oils. I've been really trying to like look into like natural stuff, because
That's good.
all the things that these people are putting into these products, and with the pandemic going on and everything, I'm just like, I don't want to start growing a second thumb or a second toe in my body, and you don't know what you're putting in there.
And the thing is this.
Yeah.
If you give yourself permission, you are the one that can tell your body how to handle whatever you take in.
Yeah.
Okay? And your body will adapt to that if you are the leader. And so in many cases, it doesn't matter what you take, you can tell your body what to do with it.
Yeah. I was just reading a comment that somebody made. But guys, if you want to follow Dr. Serge Kahili King, it's been a great interview so far. We've been getting into a lot of his different books about shamanism. Guys, go visit surgeking.com, and you can get all his info right there. What was it like growing up in Hawaii and living there, and what's all that like?
It's the culture is what I got into first.
Sure.
So although living in California at the time when I was young,
Okay.
why I was sent to dance school to learn hula. Later on in high school, and I had an opportunity to choose what instrument I wanted to play, I chose ukulele. And so there was this connection early on, even though I didn't actually get to Hawaii until I was an adult.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, do you have any events or anything you would like to plug with our audience or our listeners where they can get your information? I want to make sure we get time in for that. Any events you'd like to share with anybody?
I wish I did. I used to have a lot of that, but at www.huna.org is where you can find a calendar, find tons of articles, find all kinds of things relating to these teachings, and so that's what I'd recommend. Check out the calendar. Things will start to increase one of these days soon, I hope, where we can do more events than we're able to do right now.
Sure. Yeah. Did you enjoy speaking? 'Cause I know it says on your bio you've done some speaking engagements as well. Do you enjoy lectures?
Lecturing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I have over 200 videos about
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I love to talk.
Yeah. um. Now, other than your workshops, is there anybody like the pioneers of shamanism that you would recommend in literature or in any kind of teachers that are out there that have been like around forever or even before our time? Is there anybody that you recommend?
Unfortunately, I'm one of the few who seem to be hanging around.
And I'm glad you are. You're a great guy.
Most of my colleagues of a long time through my life have gone else to other places.
Sure.
But so what I recommend is if you see something or learn something or somebody is putting something, look at it. See if it appeals to you. There's no one way to learn this stuff. And if some things are happening as you're learning that you don't feel are right, feel free to drop it and go somewhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's good teachers out there, but good teachers, it depends also on the people, whether there's a match. And so trust yourself.
Mm. Yeah. No, that's good words. What is one of the most interesting or common questions that you get from followers of yours as far as your line of work? What do you think is the most common question you come across?
Wow.
that's
So,
that's a good question.
but it's usually how do I heal this or that?
Right.
And so depending on what it is the treatment I'd suggest or the technique I'd suggest. Okay, there's no one way to do everything. Okay, there's always another one. The way we put it is there's always another way to do anything.
Yeah.
So that's why I concentrate on putting out as many different techniques as possible so that people have the widest range of choice that fits them.
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely true. It's kind of like the analogy of, I'm sure you've heard of this or maybe not, when a person is trying to read like a psychic medium reading a person or vice versa, and they have trouble reading that person because we talk a lot about how sometimes their energy doesn't connect, and that level of energy, if it doesn't connect, and it doesn't match, they don't get a good reading from that particular individual. So it's kind of along the lines of that.
Yeah, and also you got to recognize that whoever the reader is, you're getting their opinion,
Right.
and sometimes you can get useful information from that. Okay?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong at all, but you're getting their opinion.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So, any advice for our listeners as far as shamanism, dream techniques, all the books that we've talked about tonight? Any advice for anyone?
Give my favorite advice. It consists of three things: bless the present, which means acknowledge the good around you, in your life and around you. Trust yourself. Don't put yourself down. Trust yourself to do the best you can, which is all you can ever do in any situation. And expect the best. Because if you expect the best, you may not get exactly what you want, but it'll be the best you can get. If you expect the worst, you won't even see the best if it comes around facing you. So trust, bless the present, trust yourself, expect the best. That's what I recommend.
Wow, that's a great perspective. I've never heard it put it that way, but that's really great. Well, I had fun with this interview. I hope you had a lot of fun. I hope I was a gracious host, and I hope the questions were good.
Oh, yeah, enjoyable.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun. Again, guys, just real quick, his website is Serge King, SERGE King, KING.com. Just want to, give that website out to everybody. Hopefully, I fixed the morphing of my head from the last show that I did because I use a green screen and you wouldn't even know where I am with the green screen that I use. So right now I'm in the sky. I'm floating around with the clouds. So I had a lot of fun tonight, and I want to thank Dr. King for being my guest. We'll say our farewells here, and I hope to stay in touch with you because I may ask for a signed copy of your book someday.
Sure. I'm available on Facebook too.
All right, great. Yeah, that was gonna be my last thing. Where can people follow you as far as social media goes?
His place. And if you want to be my friend, I'm open to that too. Just let me know how you made the contact.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Dr. King. You be well and take care of yourself.
Hey, aloha.
All right, aloha. See, I'm part Hawaiian now. All right, great. Um, Guys, that was Dr. King. He was a very nice guest. Yes, I agree with my wife in the chat there. I want a big shout out to the people that were in the chat. It wasn't working that well tonight. I don't know why, guys, but we have Mike Sagla. We call him Mr. Sag because I know him. I work with him. Mike was listening. So what's up, Mike? Thanks for tuning in tonight. My wife is always monitoring the chat, so thank you, honey, for doing that for me. Deb Lobel, who's kind of helps co-produce Strange Oddities podcast. And I really want to thank her. She does a lot of research for us, both in the paranormal world and for my show. She helps get contact information for my guests, not just me, but she's a great help in many ways. And I want to give a big shout out to our listeners that Debbie Lobel is a co-producer of Strange Oddities podcast. So I want to make sure that I throw that out there. Guys, if you haven't followed the show, follow us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click that little bell at the main page, and you're subscribed. We're almost at 200 subscribers. I also want to take the time to thank our last guest. We had author Dr. Mark Mirabello from the History Channel's hit show and series Ancient Aliens, and as well as America's Book of Secrets. Dr. Mirabello is into secret societies, and we talked about a lot of things about secret societies and such. We talked about Skull and Bones, the Illuminati. We talked about the New World Order. It was a really great interview. It was my first show back live after a little hiatus, and I had a lot of fun with the author and Dr. Mark Mirabello. Guys, check him out. My next guest, guys, I can't wait because I'm a big fan of his book. It's called Bloodstain. Mr. Jeff Mudgett, who is the great grandson of the infamous murderer H.H. Holmes. Now they had a TV series on the History Channel called The American Ripper, and he was on there because they were investigating the possibilities of his great grandfather being Jack the Ripper, or being a copycat of Jack the Ripper. And because there were too many similarities and things going on during the investigation, and things that he learned about his family legacy, of them, being related to H.H. Holmes. And it was a great TV show. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm sure it's available streaming somewhere. Go check it out. But we're going to have Mr. Jeff Mudgett the next week, I believe, is October 21st, next Thursday. We're going to have Jeff Mudgett. I've interviewed him before. He's a fun guest. I kind of feel like when I have him on my show, he makes our show feel like it's part of his investigation into H.H. Holmes. And every time I interview him, it's like sitting at a bar, having a drink, and we're just, we're talking shop about H.H. Holmes and Jack the Ripper. So it couldn't have fell at a better time for October. And I'm excited to have Jeff Mudgett, the author of Bloodstains and icon of the American Ripper TV show. So that's next week, guys. All right. Yeah, my wife likes Mudgett. Yeah, Mike, it's a really good show. It is good. So you'll like him. He's our next guest. And after that, November 4th, guys, is my 50th episode of Strange Oddities podcast. I can't believe we're at 50 episodes. Wow, time flies. But for our 50th episode, I'm doing a 2-hour Titanic special. That's right, a 2-hour Titanic special. Starting at 7 p.m., I'm going to have Helen Benziger, who is a descendant. I believe she's the great niece or great granddaughter. I have to get that accurate before I have her on the show. Of the unsinkable, what the hell's her name? Molly Brown. There we go. I got to get it right. The unsinkable Molly Brown. She's a descendant. I'm actually going to have a descendant of one of the survivors of the Titanic as a guest on the Strange Oddities podcast. And also, I'm going to have Craig Sopin, a Titanic historian from the Titanic International Society. He's been on numerous TV shows and radios and whatnot. But we're going to have him on the second hour. And during the second hour of the 50th episode, we're going to talk about some of the conspiracy theories that went on about why the Titanic went down. There's a lot of crazy, wild ideas that it wasn't just an iceberg, that there were some motives to make that ship sink, because it was supposed to be an unsinkable ship. And, it was a ship of dreams. So there was a lot of crazy ideas about it. So anyway, I'm excited for that special episode, my 50th episode. I'm going to stop rambling. I'm tired. Sunrise comes early. Guys, have a great night. I'm sorry if I got anybody motion sick with my floating clouds behind me. I'll try to, cut out the video stuff behind me if it bothers anybody. I'll try to be a little bit different with my green screen. Try to be a little fancy. All right, guys, be well. I'm going to play my video here. Have a great night. Take care of yourselves. And until the next time, guys, take care. Good night.